Hello everyone, and welcome to How-FixIT. If your PS5 is overheating or randomly shutting down while playing, don't worry. I'm here to help. In this video, I'll walk you through a full disassembly, deep cleaning of the cooling system, and, if needed, a liquid metal replacement. I'll also cover complete reassembly so you can finish the repair. This guide covers the 2022 revision of the original PlayStation 5. Check the model number on the bottom of your console. The code starts with CFI, followed by numbers and a letter. This video applies to models such as CFI-1215A or CFI-12xxA and others. If your code ends with the letter B, Digital Edition, this guide still applies. If you have a 2020 or 2021 model, such as CFI-1015 or CFI-1116, use my separate video. The link is in the description. Before we start, here's what you'll need. A screwdriver set with Torx T8 security and Phillips No. 1 bits, plastic opening tools, an anti-static brush, and tweezers. For liquid metal replacement, I recommend Thermal Grizzly Conductonaut. I've included links to all the tools in the video description below. I also highly recommend using a magnetic mat. The PlayStation 5 uses many screws of different sizes. Organizing them prevents mix-ups and makes reassembly easier. A magnetic mat helps you prevent them from getting lost, since they stay attached to the mat. It's a simple but very helpful tool when working on complex devices. Alright, let's begin. Place the console on its side with the disk drive facing up, lift the top left corner of the faceplate to unclip it, slide it to the right, and remove it. Remove any dust from the back of the cover. Insert a spudger under the grill and remove it. Peel up the wire cover, then disconnect the fan cable from the motherboard. Remove the 4 fan screws and lift the fan out. Throughout this service, keep track of each screw and make sure it goes back exactly where it came from to avoid damaging your console. Now you can begin to thoroughly clean the fan. Use a brush to remove dust from the blades. If it's heavily clogged, use a vacuum with a dusting brush attachment. Dust buildup can create static charges and roughen the blade surface, which makes dust stick and circulate inside the console. A clean fan runs quieter, moves more air, and helps keep temperatures stable. Next, clean the console shell and vents, especially the intake and exhaust, so loose dust isn't pulled back into the system. Now, the heatsink. Access through the fan opening is limited, and dust often packs tightly between the fins, blocking airflow and reducing heat transfer. You can try cleaning the heatsink through this opening, but it's only a superficial fix and won't address power supply overheating as airflow runs through the console and the power supply. We'll continue disassembling to ensure a proper deep clean. Loosen the expansion slot cover screw and remove the cover. If you have an M2 SSD installed, remove it. Remove the 11 screws securing the case. There's a single screw hidden under the warranty sticker. Lift it with tweezers and remove the screw. Remove the top plastic cover. Disconnect the optical drive ribbons. On the first connector, press the metal locking tab with tweezers and pull the blue tabs straight out. The second cable pulls straight up. Remove the optical drive. Disconnect all antenna leads and the LED ribbon table from the motherboard. Remove 5 screws holding the metal cover and lift it off. Unlock the USB board connector by pushing the metal latch up. While it's unlocked, pull the cable straight out. Pull the blue tab to disconnect the power and eject button ribbon cable. Remove 2 screws securing the case to the motherboard and heatsink assembly. Refit the plastic cover temporarily and flip the console over. Remove the other faceplate by lifting the corner with the PS logo and sliding to the left. Clean the back of the faceplate and all ventilation openings. Remove 2 more screws that secure the case to the power supply and motherboard. Flip the console back and remove the top plastic cover. The power supply connects to the bottom of the main board via metal prongs. To safely free the board, use a plastic spudger from underneath to lift the main board off the prongs. Now remove the motherboard with heatsink assembly from the housing. A quick but important note on airflow. The PS5 blows air through the heatsink and through the power supply, so dust collects on the bottom of the case, inside the power supply, and in its vents. That buildup can overheat the power supply and other components, causing shutdowns and, in severe cases, damage. Thoroughly clean the power supply vents and surrounding areas to prevent these issues and extend the life of your console. With the shell and power supply cleaned, return to the heatsink. You now have full access to the heatsink, so we can clean it thoroughly. Use a soft bristled brush and work carefully along each fin. This step is critical. A dust-clogged heatsink can't dissipate heat effectively. The fan ramps up to compensate temps spike, and the console may shut down under load. After cleaning, inspect the heatsink and make sure it's fully clear of dust and debris. Place the motherboard assembly back into the case and seat it. When installing the main board, pay close attention to the metal prongs that make with the power supply. Ensure the two notches align correctly so the board sits properly. Make sure ribbon cables don't get trapped under the board. Refit the top plastic cover and flip the console over. Secure the motherboard and heatsink assembly to the case with 2 screws. Flip back and remove the top plastic cover. If there are any dusty spots left inside the console, now is the time to clean them out. At this point, the deep cleaning is finished. If you don't need to replace the liquid metal, you can skip ahead to reassembly using this time code. Only replace the liquid metal based on symptoms. If, after proper dust cleaning, the console still runs hot or loud, shows throttling or shutdowns, an inspection reveals liquid metal that's oxidized, cracked, shifted, or patchy, remove it and reapply. If temps and noise are stable, don't change it just because time has passed. Liquid metal has no fixed lifespan, and the PS5 is engineered for long-term operation without intervention. To access the APU and cold plate, remove 26 screws securing the top shield plate. Use a spudger to pry around the perimeter until it separates. The thermal pads bond the plate to the motherboard, so expect some resistance. These thermal pads transfer heat from the motherboard to the shield plate. Over time, their elasticity can drop, reducing heat transfer. I'll show you how to assess them in a moment. Remove the 2 screws on the tension bracket, alternating turns to keep pressure even. Don't remove one screw fully before the other, or you risk damaging the main processor. Take your time. A slip screwdriver can scratch the board and cause permanent damage. If you need to clean the motherboard, use only an anti-static brush. Gently lift the bottom right corner of the board with a spudger to clear the power supply prongs. Remove the main board, flip it over, and carefully lay it on the housing. Let's inspect the surface. On the APU die, look for a dry center with a liquid metal pushed to the edges, uneven coverage, or dull oxidized areas, all signs of poor contact. On the heatsink cold plate, a patchy imprint with tide marks around the perimeter shows the liquid metal has pumped out and shifted over time. Poor contact at the die's center creates hot spots, forces higher fan speeds, and triggers thermal shutdowns. Your PS5 might not have this exact issue. It could simply be poor cooling. But you won't know the APU die's condition until you separate the board from the cold plate. Now let's replace the liquid metal. The first step is surface preparation for the liquid metal. Degrease both the APU die and the heatsink with isopropyl alcohol, 90% or higher, using a cotton swab. Gently wipe until all traces of old liquid metal are removed. The silicon die should be mirror clean and completely residue-free. Clean the cold plate the same way. If a bubble of old liquid metal forms while wiping and you don't have a fresh tube, you can collect it with a syringe, but don't mix it with new material. Attach the micro tip to your liquid metal tube. Carefully dispense a small drop of liquid metal onto the silicon die, just enough to cover the APU once spread. If you apply too much, as I demonstrated, it can pool or overflow, creating uneven contact between the die and the heatsink, which hurts thermal performance and can cause overheating. If that happens, collect the excess with a syringe and try again. Liquid metal is extremely efficient, so a very small amount is sufficient for the APU. The goal is a thin, even film that fully wets the die and mates perfectly with the heatsink, enough to fill microscopic gaps, but not so much that it can pool, pump out, or leak. Use lint-free or liquid metal-safe swabs and avoid standard cotton swabs. They shed fibers. Spread the liquid metal into a thin, uniform layer across the entire die. No clumps, no bare spots, light pressure only. Apply a very small amount to the cold plate and spread it thinly as well. Remember, liquid metal's job is to fill microscopic gaps between the die and the cold plate. A thin, even layer gives the best thermal conductivity. A thick layer acts like an insulator and raises temperatures. Now, check the thermal pads. Press lightly to test compression. If they don't spring back or feel too thin, they may no longer be making solid contact, which impairs heat transfer. Check tackiness too. Good pads should feel slightly sticky and adhere to surfaces. If they're dry, crumbly, or won't stick, they're ineffective and should be replaced. If you see any of these signs, replace the pads, or use thermal putty for a better fit to restore cooling efficiency. The pads shown in this video are still flexible and transferring heat well. If you'd like to upgrade them for better conductivity, I've linked a detailed thermal pad replacement guide in the video description below. Let's reassemble the PS5. Place the motherboard back into the housing, aligning the power supply prongs. Ensure the notch aligns correctly. This confirms that the main board is properly seated in the housing. Secure the main board with 2 screws. Install the bracket with plastic arms first, then place the metal bracket on top, aligning the holes. Tighten the 2 screws alternately, a few turns at a time, to apply even pressure to the APU. Don't crank one down all the way first. Reinstall the top shield plate. Secure the top shield plate with 26 screws. Reinsert all cables into their sockets, lock any latches, replace the metal cover, and secure the screws. Secure the motherboard and heatsink assembly to the case with 2 screws. Route and reconnect the antenna tables in their original positions. Install the optical drive and reconnect both ribbon cables. Install the top plastic cover over the motherboard and secure it with screws. Install the expansion slot cover and secure it with the screw. Install the fan and connect the cable to its socket. Secure the fan with 4 screws. Finally, slide both faceplates back until they click into place. The PS5 is now fully assembled. Connect it, power it on, and test under load. If this guide was helpful, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe for more repair tutorials. Visit our website for more tech insights and do-it-yourself guides. Remember, every tech challenge is an opportunity to learn and grow. If you have any questions about PS5 maintenance, please feel free to ask them in the comments. By the way, if you spilled a sugary drink on your PS5 controller and the buttons are sticking, check out my tutorial on cleaning and restoring the DualSense controller. For additional details, check out the useful links in the description below. Thanks for watching How-FixIT. See you next time.